Buenos días, mi gente. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to one episode of Coffee Break with Carm, La Hora del Cafecito's new sister show. My name is Lourdes Quinones, and I would like to welcome you to Coffee Break with Card. Coffee Break with Card is dedicated to all those in our community who are living with autism, to their family members, and to all those who support them. So come in and join us at the table and sign in on the comment section and let us know if you're drinking your coffee with us. We'd love to say hello to you. In our last episode, Stacy Hoagland, education advocate and president of the Autism Society of Florida, discussed the importance of data and being prepared for the IEP meeting. And in today's program, we're going to be talking about how to create and organize the records and IEP binders so that we can have information that we need to advocate for our loved ones with autism. So join us. We have a lot to talk about, okay? So let's start by introducing to you our coffee break hostesses of today. As I mentioned, my name is Lourdes Quinones. I am a card consultant assigned to the primary age group, and professionally, I am a pediatric physical therapist as well as a special education teacher. I am joined by my colleagues, Jasmine Castellano. Buenos dias, Jasmine.
Buenos dias. Good morning, everyone.
Olivia McDonald. Buenos dias, Olivia.
Good morning.
And Maggie Aldana. Buenos dias, Maggie.
Good morning, Lourdes.
As you know, Jasmine Castellano is an excellent professional in the field of mental health. She is a card consultant assigned to the youth group and from the middle age to young adults, and is a mother of 3 children, one of whom is diagnosed with autism. Welcome, Jasmine.
Thank you, Lourdes.
Olivia McDonald is an excellent professional in the field of public health. She is a card consultant assigned to the primary age group, just like me. And she is the mother of 3. I'm sorry, she's the mother of a beautiful baby boy. I'm sorry. I am thinking of Jasmine. She's the mother of 1 baby, a toddler. She just turned almost a toddler. Okay, she just became a toddler. So he's beautiful, beautiful, and a beautiful hair. So thank you. I'm sorry about that, but he's always a baby. Anyway.
Lourdes is surprising me with more kids.
That's a hint. We need more. Anyway, she has her younger brother, Diana.
Christmas present, right?
Right? Anyway, welcome to the show, Olivia. Olivia's going to be answering our questions today. She brought us a lot of information. And then we have Maggie Aldana, who is an excellent special education teacher, and she is also the mother of 3. See, this is why I'm getting confused here. She's also the previous chair for the Card Constituency Board and is the mother of 3 children, 2 of whom are diagnosed with autism. Welcome, Maggie.
Thank you, Lourdes.
Anyway, before we get started, I'd like to review the rules by which we want to adhere this program to ensure that we have an environment that is safe for all of us. Remember to keep an open mind, maintain a positive attitude, and use respectful language. Before we get started, Jasmine, do we have people in our audience we'd love to say hello to this morning?
Yeah, we have Therese, we have Rose, and we have Barry.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here with us. We really appreciate it. Anyway, like we said before, in the last episode, Stacy Hoagland, who is the the president of the Autism Society and also education advocate, discussed the importance of data, of keeping data and being prepared for IEP meetings. And we also know the importance of maintaining records for any meeting that we maintain, we may want to advocate for our children for. So in today's program, Olivia is going to be answering our questions regarding how to maintain and create and organize a binder for record keeping, right? So that we have the information that we need should we ever need to advocate for our loved ones with autism, all right? So join us. We have a lot to talk about. Let's get started, okay? So my first question to you, Olivia, why is it so important to have a records binder to create one?
I think I have there
Yeah,
we go.
there we go.
So, the as the name implies, a records binder is a place where you keep important records for quick and easy access. Um, so, it's important to have this. So, in addition to securing the storage of important records and that ease of access, an additional benefit, as Stacey mentioned the previous episode, is that if you're a parent or a guardian walking into an IEP meeting, if you have that large binder, it sends a very powerful message. It shows the rest of the IEP team that you are prepared and ready to actively participate in the meeting, and also takes the pressure off of you to have to remember every detail. And you will know you have all the information you need to advocate for your autistic child. And this is no matter what the circumstances are. So it's not just meetings with schools. It's if you're having to advocate with the insurance company, with a therapist, with medical doctors. There's so many instances where it's important to have this information.
Excellent. That is true. There's so many times that we have. I know that sitting with insurance companies and parents wanting to advocate for their children to increase perhaps therapy time, for example, and outside of the school setting where they might need to have proof of function. As a physical therapist, I know that I always needed to justify the need for services, right?
Right.
So this is a way to be able to do that, maintaining those records. Continuation.
And what supplies do you need to create a records binder?
So obviously you need a binder. And I recommend a large 3-ring binder since it will need to hold a lot of papers, especially as your child gets older and into adulthood. And it's nice also having that large binder because you can label on the spine of the binder what is the time frame for the documents inside. So some people like to have it within, for just each year has one. Some people like to do it maybe like a 5-year interval. It will really depend on the individual. You'll also need binder dividers with tabs so that you can label each section. A 3-hole punch is useful for making the holes so that it lines nicely, but you can also use a single punch too. Folders that can go inside the binder, they sell folders that have the already made 3 holes. Those are really helpful to help either further divide a section or to hold things that can't easily be hole punched. And plastic sheet protectors can be a great option for those types of items too. And most of these things can be found either at the dollar store or even sometimes the thrift store. So it doesn't have to be expensive or complicated. I mean, if you want, you can make that binder more elaborate or add decoration. I liked Stacey's idea of having a large picture of the child on the front of the binder so that it really personalizes and puts a face to who we are talking about. And if you search on Pinterest, there are a lot of many other great ideas too.
Yes, they are.
Go ahead, Lourdes. I was just going to follow up with a question. I was really interested in finding out what sections should be included in the binder. How should we start building it?
So there are some basic sections that are generally recommended to have. So for example, in the first area, you can have, you can keep previous IEPs organized newest to oldest.
the news will be on top. And if you have a draft of an upcoming IEP, it can also go in this section with your notes and comments. Next one would be for all evaluations and assessments, whether they were done by the school system or privately. And it can be good also to further divide, diagnostic tests or cognitive tests versus those that are more therapy related. And then the section that holds documentation of communications, whether again with the school, therapy, insurance, hospital personnel, again, this is going to vary by circumstances. This is a section where folders to organize emails from different individuals could be helpful, or you could even organize it by the topic or theme of the emails. It's always a good idea to also have examples of your students or your loved ones' work. And this could be, pictures you've taken of different homework assignments, book reports, printed slides from PowerPoints they presented in class or at work. Could even be art projects. So, again, there's lots of different things that would be good examples depending on the individual with autism. And then the next section I would recommend having is one for behavioral data. Now, this is important even if the student or individual isn't having aggressive or disruptive behavior. It's important for an IEP team or an insurance company to know, for example, how much prompting does a student need for a given activity. This can include behavioral data that was collected by therapists outside of school, as well as data collected by parents. And it's good to have information about report cards and progress notes as well. So Stacy shared a great tip 2 weeks ago that you can request the information that was reviewed when creating, the progress note. And this can provide parents and guardians more detailed feedback than what is typically shared on a progress note. And finally, I think it's a good idea to have a section for relevant health and medical information. So if a student is if it's an adult, if they're taking medications that can impact their mood, that's important, and that could be helpful for others to know, especially if there are changes in dosages. It can also be good to know if they're on a special diet, if they've had major changes with his or her sleep, sensory issues. The information is going to vary based on medical and health needs. But it's also good to the other thing with these sections, it's good to keep this record, especially as they get older and even as and into adulthood, because that history of medication usage can be really helpful.
Yeah, and I wanted to say a few things because number one, you can create a binder that has all different sections, right? And just like you're saying, all this section where you keep everything, or you can divide it and have a binder for, let's say that you want a medical binder because you're, for example, I worked with very medically fragile children. So obviously their medical binder was going to be huge. So it was going to be, that one was,
it will definitely vary.
Yeah. So that was going to be primarily medical. A medical binder was probably going to have to be an isolated binder versus the school binder. So they would probably have a medical binder separate from their school binder, which would then house their everything, all their school paperwork, IEPs, evaluations related to school evaluations, cognitive evaluations, psychological evaluations, and stuff like that, right? And information. So you can do that. You can separate that like that. So I wanted to make that distinction. You can have it all together if it's going to be something that is going to be, not as especially during the early years where the information is going to be less. And also if you want to separate it by years, right? Like if you want to do just like this is going to be first grade or this year, only per year. So I'm going to have a binder for one per year or versus multiple years in one binder. So those things are decisions that the parents can make. So that's one point that I wanted to make. I love the idea that you talked about having behavioral data that and about even if they don't have behavior issues, because in what you mentioned was how many prompts those are life skills, right? So
Right.
how many prompts does it take to get them engaged, to keep them engaged, and to get them to follow through to completion? So again, thinking about from a therapist perspective, right? So I'm thinking insurance, right? I'm thinking justification for insurance purposes, right? So that's where my mind goes to. So I'm thinking that is maintaining data to justify therapies, for example. So if you were to have to justify the need for services, because if you have justification to where, well, my child has difficulty initiating a task, staying on task, completing a task, that plays into a lifetime, but by the time they get into adulthood, maintaining a job, right? You see what I mean? So if you have documentation throughout a lifetime that they have needed X amount, and how has that progressed? So your own records too. Well, how has
or if there's been any regressions, you have kind of before and after, and it can justify additional supports as well.
Yeah. So maintaining that record, you have a comparison. So those are all the reasons why you would want to keep records. So so those are the medical history, also maintaining that medical history to maintain a record. How many times do we as adults go back and say, when were those surgeries? When was that treatment that I had, that I received? What year was that? And so it's maintaining that location history. You made a point, Maggie, about the need to print it versus keeping it in the cloud in the last show. Did you share that?
Yes. One suggestion, like technology has greatly improved our lives and reduced a lot of paperwork, and we don't print things because we can file it in the cloud or on our hard drive or keep it on our phone. But there's something to be said about printing out the documents and having them organized in a binder. Having the information easy to access when you're walking into the meeting is important, because you can go into an IEP meeting and you can have the information readily available. If you're talking to a teacher about this evaluation, you don't have to promise, or the school psychologist or the school counselor, hey, when I get home, I'm going to email that to you. It's on my laptop. Or when I get home, I'll make sure I follow up and see if I can make a copy to you and mail it back. You have it all organized in one specific location. When you're going to the meeting, there is no pause in the meeting. There is like, let me flip to that section. I have it right here. If you need to make copies, there you go. Whoever needs
or even if you have your laptop, you don't have like 1,001 tabs open.
Exactly. Which very well happens in our day-to-day life here at home. Like I may even have 10 tabs open on 4 different windows, like
that's not that bad, actually.
So
yeah,
depending on your projects and what you're working on. So it's just, and also I love the having the picture of the child in front, because at the end of the day, we are all around that table to make sure that we make the best decisions for our child, or and keeping our loved one front and center. This is why we're here in the middle of the meeting. This is what we're coming together for, to plan the best path forward for the following year. It can serve as a focal point and redirecting the conversation to why we're here in the first place.
Yeah. And even for self-advocates who want to share information about themselves and say, this is my bio, this is who I am. So to let people know who I am. And Jasmine, you also had a comment in the last show about one more section that you suggested.
Yes, I suggested to include in the binder a section with the demographics of your child and weight, height, the color of their eyes, the skin, things that they like, if he's verbal, nonverbal, things that catches his attention, and have all that included, because our kiddos like to elope, wandering, and you need to call the authorities or the first responders for it. At least you have something, because at that moment, we are not thinking. So you have that already, and there's a form that you've filled out. You can find it in Google, just to have that information with basic information about your child. You can register your child in your county, so that makes things easier as well for the first responders or the authorities. If it's already registered, because they just have to search it up in the computer. So it is important to have that information as well.
Yeah. Or like Lourdes had said, you depending on the child, you can have it as a separate thing. Like my mom always kept that information as like a separate binder.
Child, but we mean also adults, and if they happen to be also individuals who may be adults but require that extra assistance because they're not able to communicate yet, so things like that. So you need to register them as well. But also, and I made the comment that if you live in Hillsborough County and they have a tendency to be elopers, Hillsborough County recently received the sheriff's department received a grant for the bracelet, the safety net bracelet. So if you have in your family someone who may be an eloper, someone that has that is not able to communicate for themselves, to provide information about where they live and where they need to be redirected should they get separated from you, and you are in the Hillsborough County area and you may be in need to be paired up with one of those safety net bracelets, you may want to contact the Hillsborough County department, the sheriff department, to be put in contact with one of those safety net bracelets for your loved one. Okay. Anyway, but we need to be moving on. So my question to you now is, parents sometimes feel intimidated at the idea of organizing and collecting data. So do you have any more advice for the particular sections, for that particular section of data collection?
Yes. So parents can request data collection sheets from their child's school, and they're often happy to provide those to parents. There are also many free already created data sheets that you can find online. One site that we recommend to families often is teachers.com. And I'll be sharing some examples of some of those common formats for data collection sheets. And I'll make sure that the links to download them, it's going to be provided at the end of the PowerPoint. But this first example is of an ABC data sheet, which is called that because it focuses on the antecedent, A, the actual behavior, the B, and then C, consequences of the behavior. And I like this one in particular, this particular version created by Behavioral Interventions and Solutions, because it actually has the boxes, the check checkboxes, which will help to save time and also make it more likely for you to, or for somebody to complete the form. Next example is great also if an individual with autism is working on a skill that has multiple steps, like tying their shoes, using the toilet, or even doing laundry independently. It also has information on how to interpret the data and know when a step has been mastered. And then finally, the last example I'm going to share is it shows that data collection can be very simple. So in this one, you can circle if a child has done a behavior independently or with prompting, but you could change those two options to yes and no if you're wanting to see if a particular behavior was done. And then you can calculate weekly totals or averages there at the bottom.
Awesome. So I always wanted to say that for data collection to be something that either teachers, parents want to do, for me also, even as a therapist, it has to be easy. I always want to say that it just has to be something that is easy and quick. So just keep it simple, just keep it simple. Try to make it something that is like more of a tally kind of thing, something that you can do a check mark. And that was something that I got from Stacy last week also, or last time we were together, that she said, she would always put together something that she would look at the goal that they were working on and make it a cheat sheet sort of for the teachers or the paras to kind of check very quickly during, was her son doing that at school? So that's what I liked from that. It was something easy that they could do, and it kept them on track, right? Because they could always say, wait, how many times did he do that? So she helped them stay on top of the goals as well by providing them with the form that they needed just to check on those. So it kept them on track of keeping track of his goals, his progress towards goals, right?
Yeah.
So,
And the other thing too with the idea of like simplifying data is to make sure that the actual activity is keep it as simple as possible. So if you're collecting, for example, if a parent's collecting data on how many times a student needs to be prompted during their math homework, keeping that clipboard
next to
with
it.
a data sheet in the area where the homework is done.
Yeah.
Or, if the behavior isn't isolated just to one area, you can also have the data collection form on a Google document or keep it as a note on your smartphone. But again, to Maggie's points, like once you've completed the form, to then print it out so that, again, you have it right there when you're going into these kind of important meetings or having these important interactions with professionals.
And that's really what ABA therapists also do. If you notice, ABA therapists, they're always taking it right there, taking a little check mark. They're right there. They're doing it right there and then. And I've seen them, even those sticky notes, then once they have time to put it on an actual note, they even take that sticky note and stick it to their actual note, because that's almost like their proof of, okay, here is the proof of what, that goes with my actual post note. But anyway, that's wonderful. Jasmine?
Yes, Olivia. I have one more question. Is there anything else you would like to share with our audience?
Yes. So kind of 2 points. So the first is that, it's to use visuals to help make the data easy and easy to understand, not only for yourself, but for the rest of the IEP team or the other professionals you're interacting with. So we say this all the time, that visual strategies are great for everyone, not just for people with autism. So, when you think, you ask yourself, what does a set of scores really mean? So you can see with the example from Wright's Law on the left that scores from different sections of a cognitive ability test were graphed.
to see a pattern of scores over time. And if you were just to look at these numbers on a page, you might miss details like for example, this child's reading ability used to be better than their writing ability, and now the opposite is true. Why is that? And then you can see the charting. You can also use charting to look at trends and data. And again, it doesn't have to be complicated. Like something like the example here on the right, it can just be done on paper and pencil or with PowerPoint or Excel. But here, again, with this example on the right, you have the red line that represents the expected progress based on an IEP goal. And then the blue line is the data that was collected during those 14 weeks. And so it's obvious when you have it laid out like this that the student is not meeting the performance goal the IEP team created and that the progress has plateaued. So that's really helpful information for that particular IEP team to know, and maybe like, oh, we need to meet and put our heads together again to figure out why. And then kind of lastly, like I had mentioned, here are the links to the data sheets and other wonderful resources. And then the last link there in particular is to a video which Lourdes might be able to talk a little bit more about, but I'll make sure to copy and paste these into the comment section so that everyone has it as well.
Yeah, that last video I really liked. It's a video that that it's a mom that explains the binder that she put together for her daughter's medical records, and it includes also her school records. But I like the way she goes through every section, and she gives examples of what sort of information she added. So I think it's a great example for parents to get an idea. And again, there's plenty of places where you can get ideas. And like Olivia mentioned, go to Pinterest, go to YouTube. I mean, just surf the internet and get ideas. Do your own version, because it's going to be dependent on your own needs, your child's needs, and your unique situation, right? Like I said, if your child is medically needed, you're going to have more, concentrate more on the medical needs of your child. So your binder is going to be more geared towards that. If it's more, depending on the age of the student, it's going to be more school related. And again, it's going to be dependent on that. But so we just wanted to give you ideas on how to get started and let you know the importance, the why. Why do we want to keep one of these things? Again, looking into the future, it's a place to go collect it. It's all housed together in one place. Like Maggie said, it's tangible. Like Olivia said, the impression that it gives when you walk into a place, you're prepared. It's right there where you're going there, here. I'm prepared. I'm here I mean business. I'm here to talk about my loved one. What do you need? I'm here to facilitate it. I'm part of the team. Count me in. I'm not just here painted receiving information from you as if I don't have anything to apport, and I'm part of the team. So therefore my voice counts. So this part of why we wanted to bring this show, which is here for you. So I hope this is information that it's useful to you. So please let us know how we're doing. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them at the bottom. We'd like to answer your questions, which brings me to that. Are there any questions at this point, Jasmine, that we need to answer? No questions?
No, we don't have any questions at the moment.
Well, we're almost at the end of the show. We just wanted to thank Olivia very much for bringing us this information. Thank you so much. This is so important information. So thank you for doing the legwork for us and putting it together. Thank you so much. And again, remind our audience that if you have any questions or comments, you're watching this after we go off the air, just go ahead and leave us the questions. We'll try to answer you. Remember that if we create a program in the future based on your question or comment, we'll be sure to give you the kudos and the recognition for giving us that idea on the air. And so that's for sure from us. And also we wanted to let you know that this is our last episode of the year 2022. Oh my God, I can't believe the year went by so fast. We're done for the year. We're going on vacation next week, I guess. And we won't be back until January the 20th. Oh my God. But before then, we are actually going to be at the CARD conference. If you haven't registered yet, please do so. We are going to be in Orlando in person. Be sure to meet us over there. We're going to be there from January the 13th until the 15th. Friday the 13th is going to be Teacher Day on the English side. Teacher Day, it's always very popular, and we're going to be there. I'm presenting. Jasmine is presenting on both the English side and also the Spanish side, because it's the Spanish. Jasmine, you want to tell us about the Spanish day?
Yeah, the Spanish is going to be free, and is on Friday.
January 13th.
January 15th, the Friday, January 15th. And
13th.
Yes, exactly. The January 13th. I'm still not there. January 13th.
Viernes 13.
Viernes 13. Just for the good luck. Friday the 13th. Yes, and it's free, and it's the first time we're doing only a Spanish mini conference. We got great presenters. So if you haven't registered, I will recommend you to do it as fast as possible, because we don't have too many seats available. So it's getting full very quickly. So we're very, very excited about it, about that opportunity.
So yeah, so be sure to be there. And again, make sure that you meet us over there, say hello, see us in person. And then we're going to be back here on the 20th of January talking about CARD. What is CARD? And our new programming, keeping you up to date of what it is that we're doing here on CARD and our new services, okay? So we'll meet you back in there. But until then, I want to ask you for a little favor, and it's please go in there and give us, as usual, let us know how we're doing. Click on the link that takes you to a very short, maybe six questions, real quick, yes or no. Give us a rating on how we're doing. This is the way that we can justify the time that it takes us to create this type of programming. So if you find that this is important information that is useful to you, please take a few seconds to do it, even if you've done it before. So we really, really appreciate it. Okay, thank you. So, but anyway, we gotta go. We want to please ask us to give us a like, share our video and our page for those that can benefit for this type of information. And be sure to meet us back here again at 10:45, again in January 20th of 2023. Until then, we want to wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Oh my God, I can't believe I'm saying that.
Merry Christmas.
We want to meet you again in January 20th or the 13th of January at the CARD conference in Orlando, Florida. So we can spill the beans on important topics related to autism. Okay, until then, we wish you good vibes and hot
coffee.
See you then. Bye-bye. Merry Christmas. Bye-bye.